Hello, everybody. Apologies for the 5 minute delay. This is the Seattle Overload podcast where we have reviewing the tape part one Seahawks at 49ers, where it's a tough loss, obviously. There's things we can still learn from that. There's maybe some hope. This episode tonight, we're going to be looking at the defense, how they gave up 12 explosive plays, how preventable it was from a scheme perspective, but also the big topics, which are obviously Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, Bobby Wagner, Reek Woolen, Pete Carroll's comments this past week. I was able to attend his Monday press conference. I tried to get something out of that, but I think really Pete Carroll's main stuff from what we can take from into the night at least is we can have a look at his comments on the radio. That was a big deal. Tomorrow, that's when we're going to dive into the offense stuff. We've got a really nice topic, and I say we because Griffin is returning tomorrow. Very excited. And then on Thursday, Ben Solak of The Ringer NFL joins us. Ben, also obviously known for his Philadelphia Eagles coverage, Philadelphia Eagles fandom. So Benjamin will be joining us to preview Monday night's season on the line, Seahawks versus Eagles. Now, preamble-wise, I don't know if there's any point in doing a preamble with just me. It's good to see you, Isaiah. Go Hawks. Absolutely. That's all we can do right now. Say go Hawks. Misfit with a misfit. That full stop feels very ominous. I don't like that for you. Is that like a sad full stop? An angry full stop? Are you mad at me, Misfit? Because I was late. Christopher, yikes, Adams. Yeah, it's been a tough situation for him, hasn't it? And he's definitely increased how difficult that is for him. David, good to see you. Griff, absolutely, David. I mean, as much as I enjoy doing this on my own, Griff is much smarter than me. And yeah, the podcast is better with him. So it's going to be good having him here. Different dynamic, of course. Misfit, all I see on my screen, I don't know if that will show up for the YouTube, but the stuff I use to live stream, that just shows up as hand pink waving. So there you go. Do you like my handwriting, chat? Explosives. I feel that was I started as a capital and then it's slowly the L was where things changed, but mean things have been said about my handwriting before. Ah, I see, Misfit. Makes sense. Right. Well, that's all I've got. Oh, other news, Newcastle United play at home to AC Milan tomorrow night in the Champions League. It's a massive game. If you fancy wearing black and white tomorrow, that would be nice because Newcastle needs to win and then they need other results to go their way. I have coffee here. There you go. Nothing better than 2:10 a.m. coffee. Is my chair angled to keep explosive visible, or is that the normal angle? Are you saying because I'm not in the center, David? I could do that, couldn't I? Are you happy now? Not that you were unhappy. The maybe EXPL is capitalized because it is also the explosives make me want to say expletives. Heck, that's the well, I should talk about this in the podcast, but it's the most frustrated I've seen Pete Carroll, I think. Right. Let's do this thing. Well, actually, chat. Someone needs to tell me what to do. Otherwise we never begin. Zachary, good to see you. I'm glad that doesn't say. Okay, Zachary. Really? I know the Seahawks season is bad, but do we have to resort to toilet humor? Okay, Misfit. That will do. It's not a hit it, but it's a let's begin. Let's do it. Welcome to the Seattle Overload Tape Review Podcast, where we have defensive issues to look at. We have 12 explosive plays. We're going to explore why they happened. We're going to explore which players were at fault. We're going to explore whether Clint Hurt, the defensive coordinator, could have used some maybe better scheme. You know, what is the actual problem with the Seahawks defense? That is the question I will attempt to answer from the United Kingdom, away from the Seahawks organization, but also armed with Pete Carroll quotes from the Monday press conference I was able to attend via Zoom. And more important, I'd say his press conference, not his press conference, his radio show comments on Seattle sports. Before that, though, some fairly significant news from the Seahawks organization. Sounds like Devin Witherspoon may be able to play next Monday. The rookie nickel cornerback and also perimeter cornerback, he's played on the left side too, has been arguably the best defensive player on the whole unit, which kind of speaks to the struggles there, but it also speaks to the 5th overall pick being an absolute baller, doesn't it? He had a rib injury, it sounded like. Then it turns out it was a hip pointer injury. And then Pete Carroll describes that on his Monday press conference as legitimate. So then right at the end of the press conference, Brady Henderson of ESPN, who's asking Pete Carroll about Jalen Carter. Of course, Seattle picked Witherspoon after him. And I think Brady wrote an article on that kind of, where the different players are at right now in 2023 in their rookie seasons. He gets Pete Carroll to then say right at the end, slips it out. I think Witherspoon, let me get the exact thing. I would expect that he's going to make it back this week and he'll be out there battling again. That is brilliant news, especially against the Philadelphia Eagles in what's a must-win game. I mean, Jamal Adams is struggling, and obviously Witherspoon plays in that same slot role, albeit bringing a slightly different skill set. But also just his dynamic playmaking on the back end of the defense. They don't really have anyone else like him. His competitiveness. He's had some up and down rookie moments, but really, if they want to start playing winning football, they need their best players, and Witherspoon's one of their best players already. So that's really positive news. Misfit saying about Devin Witherspoon versus Devontae Smith. Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting matchup, isn't it? They've both got that kind of lean, slender build to them, but they're both absolute competitors, and it'll be very interesting to see that those, the quickness of both of those guys go up against each other and then battle it out. Right. Now, the other news that I wanted to talk about before we look at the tape, the Seahawks making the playoffs. Okay, it may sound deluded. And how about we start with the Seahawks winning a game? That would be nice, wouldn't it? I don't disagree with you there. But you play to win the game. You play to make the playoffs. The Seahawks have been blessed under Pete Carroll of making the playoffs a lot of the time. And I think the preseason expectations heading into this season, at least, were that the Seattle Seahawks would not regress from where they were at, maybe improve given their upgrades in talent. And they've disappointed so far, haven't they? So let's talk about whether they can, at 6-7, still make the playoffs. Well, they can. This is the New York Times interactive NFL playoff picture. It shows that it's an uphill task. Not really a surprise. The New York Times gives the Seahawks a 21% chance of making the playoffs. If the Seahawks beat the Eagles, that climbs to 41%. 40%. If the Seahawks beat the Titans, That climbs to 60%. If the Seahawks beat the Steelers at home, that climbs to 76%. And if the Seahawks win at the Cardinals, their chance of making the playoffs based on 109,888,000 simulations climbs to 99% chance of making the playoffs. There's obviously other teams at play in this conversation. The Seahawks need the Vikings, who are 7-6 right now, to start losing some games. What is nice about the Vikings is their schedule. The Vikings have to play the Detroit Lions, who are obviously first place in that division, twice still, home and away. They also have to play the Green Bay Packers. And the Packers losing on Monday night at the New York Giants was very, very significant, because the Green Bay Packers, ladies and gentlemen, my word, their remaining schedule is very weak. Green Bay hosts Tampa Bay, they travel to the Panthers, they travel to the Vikings, and they host the Chicago Bears. So really, Seattle needs to win out. That's the first thing. 99% chance of making the playoffs. But they also need, the Vikings to drop at least one game. They're 7-6. That's why they need that to happen. The Vikings, by the way, play at Cincinnati Bengals on top of those two Lions games, and then hosting the Packers, as I said. And then the other team in the equation here, and we don't need to get into the NFC South because it's an absolute mess. Could be won by a losing record team. The other team in the equation is the Los Angeles Rams, and they're an absolute pain. Obviously, the Rams are 6-7 like the Seahawks, but they beat the Seahawks twice. That gives them the tiebreaker, and the Rams' schedule looks nicer than Seattle's. They play at they host the Washington Commanders, host the New Orleans Saints, then visit the New York Giants on the road, and then play the San Francisco 49ers on the road, when potentially the number one seed in the NFC may have been wrapped up already. You could get into that situation where the 49ers don't need that game as badly as the Rams do. Maybe they rest players. I know they have in the past. Shanahan hasn't been averse to that approach, if I recall correctly. So it's a bit of a mess to unpack. Obviously, the simplest thing to say is win out. But if the Seattle won out and the Packers and the Rams also managed to win out, the Seahawks would miss the playoffs because their conference record, their in-season conference win percentage, is worse than the Packers. So they need another Packers loss or a Rams loss. They definitely need a Vikings loss, and they need to win all their games. That's why it's 21%, and that's why if Seattle wins out, the New York Times puts their chance of making the playoffs at 99%. Can it be done? It's now or never. And I think I've said this, I tried to use this as a positive spin before the kind of hellish 49ers, Cowboys, 49ers stretch of games, that we'd find out a lot about who this team is. I think we've started to find out that they're not very good, haven't we? Or at least the issues that we'd seen are still kind of the same issues, or if in fact they may have even got worse. One element of cope you could talk about, and maybe we approach tomorrow in the film, that Dallas Cowboys game with Geno Smith there. Obviously Geno balled out, and the results looked good from like a raw production offensive standpoint, even though Seattle couldn't come away with the W against, by the way, what looks like a great Cowboys team. But the way that the receivers were used, the types of routes they were given, the receiver spacing, it just looked much clearer than it has for most of this season. They actually had ways to separate against man coverage via offensive design. They weren't just asking them to win ISO ball every time. Tyler Lockett was actually given deep play action routes out the slot. DK Metcalf was targeted. Looked like they took more shot plays in general, and their explosives went up. So, it's kind of alarming it's taken Shane Waldron that long. Lack of a run game still a concern, or lack of a efficient run game and lack of a core run concept that they can go to when the going's tough and get a reliable yardage from. offensive line's also troubling to me. But maybe the offense is starting to turn a corner. Obviously, tonight, we're going to talk about the defense, which is regressing. Even if they have played really good opponents. Now, Narc Diaries, good to see you here. 2 great games last night. Absolutely. I mean, messy games. I switched off the Dolphins-Titans game. I was trying to watch both games. I had a fancy football rooting interest in the Dolphins game. I needed A-Chain to outperform DeAndre Hopkins, which that didn't work. But I switched that off because I thought it was over and was like, oh, let's. I almost called him Danny DeVito. Let's root for the Giants. We need the Packers to lose from a Seahawks perspective, and that was just a mess. That game had a bit of everything. I really enjoyed that. Henry, good to see you. Big match tomorrow. Your team versus my team. We're gonna rock St James's Park. Henry, I didn't know you were an AC Milan fan. Oh, I'd forgotten it. You might have told me that before. Can you is there any take backsies with Sandro Tonali? Zachary Stewart, it's really alarming that Jamal Adams blows a routine coverage in hook versus all go special. Zachary, absolutely. Nice terminology there. It is alarming. We'll look at why exactly that happened. I'll kind of explain why I think it happens. Right. So the Seahawks can make the playoffs, but it needs to happen now. And as much as I'd love it to, I'm not so sure. Henry Maldini must have known about Tonali. Yeah, possibly. Right, so in this game, Seattle gave up 12 explosive plays. An explosive play is a run of 12 yards or more, a pass of 16 yards or more. Seattle looks to limit explosive plays on defense, and they look to get explosive plays on offense. The general idea being it's very hard to keep a drive alive if you don't get at least one explosive play on that drive. Basically, every scoring play in the NFL has at least one explosive play in it. Because if you're suddenly in a situation where, okay, great, you've had a 13-play drive together and you've marched down the field with that, you kind of run out of those short bullets. It's a really long time to be on the field, and the defense can long time not to make a mistake, and a long time for the defense not to work out what you're doing. A very crude explanation, but I did say basic. And that's long been the guiding principle of how Pete Carroll wants to play football. Noticeably on offense this past game and even the Cowboys game, the explosive plays have been up and their kind of desire to attack and find them. Last game, they had 11 explosive plays. And on defense, the fact that they gave up 12 was the first thing Pete Carroll identified as the problem. And they weren't just small explosive. They weren't just an explosive of, just a 16-yard pass or just a 12-yard run. We have McCaffrey, a 72-yard carry to open the game. Deebo Samuel, 54-yard touchdown catch. Brandon Ayuk, a 45-yard catch. George Kittle, a 44-yard touchdown catch. So 4 different players with plays of 40 yards or more. Obviously, the 49ers in this game averaged 9.9 yards a play, which speaks to how many damn big plays there were. Even the big run plays, you had McCaffrey with a 23-yard carry and McCaffrey with a 20-yard carry, significantly more than a 12 yards, along with that 72-yard carry I spoke about. Now, why did this stuff happen? I think the best way for me to kind of explain that is to look at the tape, and within each explosive play, I will try and talk around like one of the topics, or one of the subtopics. But subtopics in my mind right now are Noah Chen and Nwosu, right? And I need to get better at how I summarize this. And when people post this on Reddit, and thank you so much, people who do share this content, because it does help this grow, and I want it to grow so more people can get involved. but people actually do summarize it, and I'm like, hang on, that's actually, why don't I try and summarize it? So this is my attempt, right? So one topic is Uchenna Nwosu being out, or one factor. Um, One factor is Bobby Wagner and, lacking speed, coverage being a bit downhill. One factor is Jamal Adams and his movement skills not being back, and some other stuff that we'll talk about. One factor is one factor we'll explore, but I will reject is Quandre Diggs. One big factor is Reek Woolen being rusty. And then one massive factor is the scheme of Clint Hurt. And there's some plays which we all look at where I will probably start banging on about the B-gap bubble. Ben Judge, do you see the biggest needs in the offseason as edge, interior, offensive line, and safety? Biggest needs are, Ben, the biggest need right now is a middle linebacker. But that in theory could be Jordan Brooks, and then you're like, it's a big need to get a weak side backer next to him, but in terms of the assets that would cost is maybe not that high. And that's kind of the nice thing, Ben, about Ben, I see you've corrected yourself. But that, Ben, is a nice thing about their needs, at least, on paper heading into the offseason without knowing some other stuff. In theory, interior offensive line, inside backer, safety, you should be able to get good players who can play there and do well there for not too high a cost. Just look at how the NFL generally values those positions, where they generally get drafted. Obviously, edge rusher is a separate conversation there. They could do with another edge rusher, absolutely, but you hope Derek Hall in his second year can come along. At this point, I don't think Darryl Taylor will come back. But then he's played, he struggled and not played to a level, and right now doesn't quite have the sack numbers this year, that he might not get paid as much. He might actually be affordable. So obviously, free agency influences everything. And tight end is a need, but because of the guys who could walk in free agency. But yeah, we have to wait to see that play out, as Misfit points out. And like, it's right now, when I look at the tight end group, they're playing fine. There's the safety group, well, specifically Jamal Adams, right? Jamal Adams, Bobby Wagner, Darryl Taylor. They're not playing great. So, Dag, do you think we fill the hole at middle linebacker through the draft? If so, do you have any names you're looking forward to watching the pre-draft process? I've been hearing stuff about Edgerrin Cooper. I haven't got into the draft stuff, but Cooper was actually recommended to me by at Double China 7, who's a Texas A&M. Might be an alumni, an alum. But anyway, they're like a Texas A&M expert. I'd recommend following that account. They had cool highlights. But what I'd say is they'll do both with middle linebacker. They'll sign like a free agent and draft one. But because Brooks can play Mike, in theory, the position which gets paid slightly more, slightly higher valued, in theory, right? Then the weak side backer you can fill a bit cheaper, either with your cheap, like a lesser draft pick, or with not as much money in free agency. I would be interested to see Devin Bush return and get to the opportunity to work at that role. Henry, who are the top 5 players you think are underperforming relative to their salary? Man, that's the type of question, Henry, that would be nice to have some preparation for. I mean, right now, and You have to say Jamal Adams. Um, you could say Draymond Jones. Um, Bobby Wagner. Um, you could say Julian Love. I don't know. I'm struggling. I'm hesitant to have a go at the receivers, and I think Tyler Lockett has been okay. Whatever's gone on this year, the receivers speaks to me more about coaching issues. When you have the head coach saying before the Dallas Cowboys game that we need to give our receivers better routes, and it's stuff that Griff and I, when we watch the tape, we've been like, what routes are they being given here? It's like alarm bells. Yeah, and also just the general details on the routes, the spacing, the execution, the understanding, the fact they're running into each other. It's a big question mark. So I have at times wondered if Tyler Lockett's losing his pace, and then he runs out of the slot against the Cowboys downfield, draws defensive pass interference. They get him matched up on a linebacker and a safety. It's his best type of route where he's in the slot, he gets to run down the open middle of the field, and you're like, oh, he's fine. And DK Metcalf struggled for a lot of this year, but then I can kind of point towards the coaching with him too. Obviously, both those players haven't performed, production-wise, what you'd hope for. And you could say the same about Quandre Diggs, even though I purposefully left him out of that conversation because he's played absolutely fine football. Problem is the surrounding stuff. Anyway, these are off-season topics. So let's look at the explosive plays from this past game. Let's get that up. Get my pen up. And chat, if there's anything that I can explain, or you, well, one, if there's ever a play you want to look at, I want this to be something where you can be like, hey, can we pull up this play? What happened here? Can you explain that for me? And I'll do my best. But two, if there's something that like a detail that you want explained more, or you've got a question, please do use the chat feature to ask that too, because I want you to get stuff out of this rather than it just be me talking. Kerry, they have tried some dagger stuff, but not as often as they'd like. That also requires protection from straight drop back things, and also the spacing of when they've tried it at times has been off, and there's the timing of the quarterback. So right, here we go. So first play of the game. This was probably a sign, wasn't it, that things were not going to go very well. Let me put myself like that. Yeah, we probably knew it. So first things first, base defense. So outside backer, interior D line, interior D line, interior D line. Last time round against the 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks ran 0 snaps of base defense. That's despite the 49ers having 21 personnel a lot of the time. In the first game, it's 64% of the time. This is 2 in the backfield, 1 tight end, 21 personnel. Mike Dugar asked Pete Carroll about that question. He asked, hey, what's up with you guys using base personnel a tiny bit against the Dallas Cowboys the following week, but the previous week against the 49ers not running base defense. And it was quite a bizarre answer from Pete, where he basically referenced the fact that the Seahawks play the 49ers twice in a season, almost implying that they were kind of keeping it in their back pocket or saving it as an approach. Now, as and that is obviously something I've been wondering about, something we covered in the first matchup. In this game, Seattle ran. Hold on. In this game, Seattle ran 10 snaps of base defense. And after this play, they didn't really use it until they absolutely knew they had to stop the run. So it's still something they don't want to use that much. But again, in this game, like we saw in the last game, Kyle Shanahan absolutely worked an open B-gap bubble. We'll talk about that in a second, but you'll notice from this approach, there's no B-gap bubble. This is just how Seattle always used to play defense back in the days that they were great. To 21 personnel, this pro I-form look, they would play under. So this is a 3-tech. This is a shaded nose tackle. This is the 5-tech type. This is the Leo. Oh, no, idiot. Doesn't even know ball. This is the Sam, and this is the Leo. Leo always went with the 3-tech. They'd play the Mike here. They'd play the Will here. And then they'd call it under Frisco. Frisco being flex rotation. So flex rotation. This is the Y tight end. Flex rotation. Safety rotation down to the flex side. So away from the tight end to the X, flex. Then on the back end, on the second level, and David, thank you so much for your donation. Dave Wyman on radio broadcast complains about linebackers avoiding blocks is a big problem. Is that what you see? David, that will come up. If you feel I haven't done a good job answering that, let me know. But that 100% comes up. I kind of agree, David, and I kind of don't agree. At a certain point, you don't want to get blocked, but there's times where you'd like them to go over the top of the block at least, rather than backdooring it to slip it. So the second level, which is kind of linked to what David was talking about, they are keying the flow of the backfield, right? So Bobby Wagner is a lever player or turn back. So if the fullback if he gets flow towards him, Bobby Wagner will take this block on with his left shoulder and turn the football back. Jamal Adams is a turn back or lever player where if he gets flow towards him, he will flow to stay outside of the play and turn back this block with his right shoulder. So this shoulder here. Jordan Brooks is a fast flow or spill player. So if he got the fullback up his A gap, he would look to spill the ball inside out, take it on with his left shoulder, kind of wrong arm it, and spill it to the unblocked Adams, kept clean by the 3 technique player. But the crucial thing is these second level players, they all play on a string together. So if the fullback goes this way, turn back, fast flow, staying on a string, never overlapping this guy or this guy, staying on a string to play the cutback and find the next available gap to fit in on the play. Obviously, there's variations. They don't always run wide. They might run tight. But everyone would converge and leverage the 2 in the backfield based off that. If you get split flow, say this, well then we relate to the flow of the football, and then we fit our initial gap where we're lined up. So Wagner would see this go away or like this. He would step with it and then fit down into his B gap. Or he might have the C gap here. We'll have a look. Brooks would see the flow away, then fit into his A gap. And Adams would take the outside flow to his side. So they're all fitting the flow of the backfield. And why Seattle really like this defense is it gives them, one, the safety's protected by the 3 technique player, but it gives them numbers towards the bubble side. So this is a B gap bubble, okay? I said there wasn't a bubble, there is technically, but this is a B gap bubble. It gives them a guy immediately there to turn back into the B gap bubble. It gives them an extra guy here. And then even if the offense is going to bring both these guys through, the safety should always be unblocked in here if we get good knockback up front. So they get an 8-man front. They get weak side protection for this guy if the run was weak. But to the strong side, they can easily get one guy immediately turning back in the area the offenses are most likely to run it. And then they get 2 extra guys flowing to the football. So what goes wrong on this play? Well, Pete Carroll described it as over pursuit. And what was frustrating about this play for Pete was this is a play that they practice. They know that they want to. They know that they want to run. It's just a toss sweep play. So Seattle was expecting it, and often when you're expecting plays, you overplay the plays. Immediately, alignment-wise, this looks funky to me. Typically, oh crap, where have I put my pen? Typically, I don't have my pen. But typically, the Mike linebacker on this play would be tighter, okay? So, typically, the wheel would be about here. So, Brooks would be here. They call it a jack now, but it's besides the point. And the Mike would be here, right? So, this is Bobby Wagner, right? He's cheating out here. So, what Wagner does is he's already started out wide. And then the fullback is flat, flat, flat. And the fullback isn't going to block Bobby Wagner. If you watch how the 49ers block this up, they leave Wagner for the tight end. They crack back on this edge here. I know you can't see that because of my head. And the fullback goes to get the corner. Now, Seattle kind of plays this dude heavy. And like he's playing actually as a 4-eye and trying to keep Trent Williams from climbing. But if you imagine Wagner had started here and then flowed to the outside, right? He would have ended up on the inside of Kittle. But instead, he ends up making Kittle's job, like Kittle doesn't even have to block him, really. He's way outside of Kittle. He's trying to meet the fullback to turn him back, but the fullback isn't for him. If the fullback had been for him, Wagner could have lined up here, right? And still turned him back because the fullback would have come to get him. But instead, the fullback was never going for him. Jordan Brooks, he lined up slightly wide as well. He goes over the top of the block, which you have to go over the top of blocks because the idea being if you go over the top of the block, then this guy's going to make you right, the next available player. But Jamal Adams has lined up. Usually it would be like heels at the 5-yard line. Jamal Adams is 1 yard closer than Wagner, 2 yards closer than Brooks. That means his angle to get across with the fullback and the flow is too close to the line of scrimmage, and it sucks him into number 55, who's able to cut him off. And Leonard Williams also has a pretty tough rep keeping this guard off Adams, but Adams is too close. Imagine if Adams had been here, he's able to work over the top of that block. So Wagner overruns this play, and he started cheating his alignment a bit, and we'll see it later in this game. Brooks slightly overruns the play relative to his alignment, but he's trying to go over the top of the block. But if he'd started off tighter in his alignment, then he'd have been tighter in his assignment. And Adams was too close to the line of scrimmage, so he's unable to get over the top of the block until it's too late. He gets caught on it. Now, frontside edgewise, Kerry, I see you asking about this. Frontside edgewise, Darrell Taylor feels this tight end go away from him, sees the fullback wide, and he gets crackback blocked. The issue for Seattle, because Seattle, leverage-wise, edge, right? They've set an okay edge. But the issue is this overrunning, Adams getting caught up with this. So they over pursue. Now, Pete Carroll on this play on 710 ESPN, he says that's their favorite play. We've been practicing against it the whole time. There was nothing special about it. Oh no, that was post game. Then on the radio, he said, these guys were ready to go. They were excited about it. They were jacked about it, and they were determined. They knew he had to elevate. They knew they had to support and rally for Drew Lock and make sure that he wasn't the messaging in the whole game, and he wasn't. And the guys had to do well around him. All of that was really clear. And then we were so pumped that we overrun the freaking toss, and it's 70 yards inside the 5, right out of the chutes. You know, I was concerned about our guys being so jacked that we'd over pursue. I made a point to them during the late in the week, you know, about their speed, our speed, and all that, so we wouldn't do it. And sure enough, the ball cut back on us. 4 guys go right past the football, and it's out the gate, you know. Doesn't help to have premonition. It helps to get the right point across and make sure the execution is there for us when we need it. So he's super frustrated about the lack of execution on this play when they practice it. But the thing is, and that's kind of Pete Carroll's point as well, you can practice these plays, but they hit quicker in games, or they hit slightly different tempo-wise. I don't understand the alignments here. I guess Bobby's stacking this guy because he thinks he's going to play a bit heavy, so he wants to be in the C. But as I said, typically an under defense, you'd align the Mike here, the Will more here, to give you less chance of over pursuing. You still have the leverage advantage on the fullback as the Mike to turn him back, but you're able to take a tighter path. And yeah, Darrell Taylor, in the way that he gets crackbacked, isn't great. But you see, the problem with Wagner overrunning this is it means Kittle's able to get back to Taylor. I mean, even Taylor didn't. Once he senses the crackback, he needs to actually get vertical and set the edge more and actually be a presence there. He knows that he's got crack for place. So 1, 2, 3. And I think the fourth guy Carroll's referring to is Quandre Diggs. Now, he doesn't press the inside hip very well, but he's thinking that one of these guys is going to show up here, and he's fitting in between that and the force. So you say Misfit Purdy alerted to this play pre-snap, you think? I think it's more just that they had the look. They needed to know where the B gap bubble was, which is this side. So anyway, a very disappointing start. Now, what I should say is, other than very late in the game, the like couple or so snaps that Seattle ran a base, other than this, were pretty solid. So that's not a scheme thing. That's a player's execution thing where they're just trying too hard to make something happen. All right, next up we have Brandon Ayuk's 25-yard catch. So if you recall, George Kittle had 3 plays in a row where he got lit the crap up. He got smacked. Purdy hung him out to dry a bit, but he just got smacked around. One of the ways Seattle was doing that was they're running cover 3 buzz. So the safety comes down into a hook of cover 3, curl flat or curl sail player, hook, post third player, deep third player, deep third player, curl sail or curl flat player. So 3 buzz, and what that meant is the safety, and Greg Olsen, I thought, did a good job of this on the broadcast, highlighting how Seattle was sticking this guy down to play the dig route, and that opens up the opportunity near the numbers. Shanahan's evil because what he does is he starts off in what looks like a single back under center look, so you're thinking, hey, we have to defend the run here. He starts with his fullback here, so Woolen over a fullback tells Purdy he's facing zone. Fullback then shifts to a 2 tight look. Again, you've got to honor the run. Then, this is basically creating empty, but this is stretching the underneath coverage. Remember, Seattle only has 4 underneath defenders. Putting 3 to one side and 2 to the other. There's 5 guys out in the route, and you've got 4 underneath guys, and you're stretching them with McCaffrey. So you'll notice Adams in his curl flat pushes wide with McCaffrey. Purdy in his drop looks over here. Seattle sort of pushes their coverage over to this side. What that does is generally your how do I get rid of that? Generally your Julian Love's hook alignment here would or hook landmark, would be on this hash or 1 yard outside the hash, but he's into the short side. He kind of gets creeping over here a bit more, and that creates a lot of room to this window here. And timing wise, it's so fast. Purdy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, has looked the safety off into this hole and then fire. And Ayuk is so damn good at this cut. And that's as simple as 25 yards. Now, ideally, what you'd like to do to remove this route on the backside, where you know the safety's coming down, and especially in 3 buzz when the safety's in the hook, but any cover 3 player, this is now, because we've got 3 to this side, and we've only got 2 over here, this player is the weak hook curl player. So if this guy ran all the way down the field, this guy ran down the field, this guy ran down the field, you'd have this guy in the third, Diggs play in the post. This route across the field is the responsibility of the weak hook curl player, because you can't ask Diggs to play on this side and play over here. It's too much of a distance. So that's why his attention's focused on where the 3 receivers are. Now, as I said, as the corner away, on the weak side where there's less receivers, ideally, knowing you've got help in the post, but you don't have much help elsewhere, you would ideally play inside leverage to remove that route in the dig. But you notice Mike Jackson plays with an outside bail. And that's because if you look at where the ball is, right, and the receiver being inside the numbers with a tight split here, he has to play more of a zone. Because one, this guy could go under and this guy could go vertical very quickly. So it might be that this is his new responsibility in his deep third. But also, this guy could run all the way across the field. And if you're playing inside, or he could run all the way out this way across the field. And ultimately, your primary responsibility in this position is to not allow the deep ball. And so at least by playing outside leverage on a cut split here, at least you are able to vision this guy if they do that. But also you're able to, as Jackson does, try and funnel this towards your help in the post, which is Quandre Diggs. But this is just the issue of cover 3 versus 5 guys out in the pattern. When you get 3 away, you've got a cut split here. This dig is going to hit a lot of the time. Now, in terms of the distribution, I don't love... well, it's just nasty because this is so wide. There's just too much space for them to have to cover. It's just really tough. And just perfect timing. And someone asked about Quandre Diggs. He's playing in the post. He's looking at the quarterback, but his primary responsibility here is like 2 from this side of the field. As the quarterback looks away, he's sticking his foot in the ground. He can't make a play on that type of throw. He's playing for the deep post. He's got to be the deep of the deepest, okay? So that's how a cover 3 safety plays. This is the void of the coverage. How Seattle in previous years would play this: Brooks would drop to a spot out here, they'd force the check down here. But look how deep this throw is made. It would probably be behind a curl flat player. It's so deep. And so how do you defend this? Well, disguise can help you make the quarterback see a different picture. I mean, Seattle tried to show too high, but also you need pass rush. And because it's under center, because of these wings, and they have to wonder if they're getting chipped or not, they don't get much of a pass rush, along with the fact that the 5-step drop means the ball comes out fairly quick. So this is pretty disgusting play. And by the way, Kerry saying I got spoiled by Earl Thomas. I mean, absolutely, Earl Thomas was amazing. How frenetic he was back there. How brilliant he could access the field. But Earl Thomas played the exact same cover 3 rules, and this was always a weak point of Seattle's coverage. It's just not many people got good at beating cover 3 like this. Earl Thomas would very often lean his post to this side, or Earl Thomas would be here. But I've posted a few Legion of Boom plays at times. It's still the same weaknesses in the coverage, and Earl Thomas would still play this exactly how Diggs did. It's just teams have. Shanahan's always been good at it. He's got even more dastardly. I mean, this is nasty beta. So I chalk this up to scheme, being out schemed, just a good play. Julian Love could have been slightly more aware. I mean, he gets really looked. He gets really looked here. That taking the eye off the quarterback at this moment when the quarterback's already looking out here because he's so scared about 3 up isn't great. What I'd also say is typically, right, and it depends how tight you want to cover these things. Typically in cover 3, the strong hook curl would play, or in old cover 3, the strong hook curl would play in here. The curl flat would be responsible for the second guy through his zone, which is this route. The deep third player would overlap, and they'd force just this check down here. They'd let the check down get thrown. This guy would be ready to overlap, and then they'd break on the check down. But Seattle's trying to cover this really tight, and it's part of it is because they don't. They want Wagner to be able to play low, and they want this guy responsible here. But when you're pushing like this, so you've got basically 4 guys to one side, that always is going to leave this backside hole. Because typically how Seattle would do it is this guy would play a bit more like this. He'd look more at the quarterback and scan from that area. Wagner would be back here. And essentially what would happen is this route gets thrown. Or if they want to throw this route, this guy can make a bit of more of a play in the window. But this is also, when we talk about, why can't we be aggressive in coverage, right? Making teams throw the check down is a good thing a lot of the time, because if I drop to a landmark here and I just sit in a landmark here, we don't let them throw that. We don't let them throw that. The ball's going here or here. Then that's where you need pass rush to force the ball to the check down quicker. And then that's when you can then drop and kill it. So that's how the 49ers play their zone coverage most of the time. It's how the Jets, when they're popping, play their zone coverage. They don't cover the check down. This is covering the check down, and the result of covering the check down is you leave a void out here. That's zone coverage. So this is what aggressive coverage will do. Kerry, you're pointing out the stunt. Yeah, that stunt isn't great. That's a good point, Kerry. So that's a weird one, actually. Well, firstly, they've got Cam Young on the field, the rookie nose, and Mario Edwards. So your backup D tackles. Then Derek Hall and Draymond Jones. What's noteworthy about that is no Jaron Reed. And Jaron Reed is the guy who, when it comes to pass rush situations, but also I'm sure some run stuff, he is the game caller. So he's the one responsible for calling games, meaning the movement's designed to beat pass protection. So here they'd run a tackle game. The center slides here. Yeah, so the idea that they're trying to do is to pick here, get this guy to block down, and then step up here and then loop around the back of that. The idea being that this guy is here because of this guy, and then Cam Young's able to loop around. But you'd think a better move with this guy going away would be to slant this guy down here and then try and loop around the back. But that doesn't really separate. Again, I mean, the key is Aaron Banks passing this off very well. But also Edwards doesn't really. That's not a very good setup path from Edwards. It's like a. What I wonder though is this could be a called run stunt, and he hasn't called it off, which he should have done with the back coming out. But on called run stunts, when you get pass, because this guy's going here, this guy generally has to contain for him. Just the way that Edwards doesn't pay attention here is weird. But good point, Kerry. Okay. Where was I going? Oh, yeah. So now we've got 1st and 10, 10:33 in the second quarter. I don't understand this play, chat. So it starts off as 12 personnel trips, right? So a trips bunch look, pistol, 12 personnel, because there's the running back, tight end, 12 personnel. They then shift, right, along. So they're running sky coverage, but okay. So Wagner does adjust slightly. He tightens up slightly in his deal, and I don't know. This play to me from Jamal Adams speaks to. He's worried about the over pursuit that happened on the other play, but I don't understand. Like, he should be. I don't know what he's playing here. Because he and Maffei end up in the same gap. When you're playing a 4 like this, Adams really needs to be fitting in here. He's so, like, as soon as. This is an extra gap, right, chat? It's nickel. It's an over front. So, edge, nose, 3 tech, C gap, right? And then a big B gap bubble here. Look how wide the space is between Taylor and Reed, right? That's by design with how Seattle's playing. What the 49ers are so good at is getting more numbers into that big B gap bubble where they want to run the football. So they shift Kittle, and the reaction from I don't know why Adams isn't moving on a string with these guys too, but generally, I mean, the way I see this is we have 1, 2, 3, 4 guys and a big bubble here for 1, 2, 3. It's just a simple outnumbering. Essentially, Bobby Wagner has to be the one to get involved, and he doesn't. But where the play really loses is they're able to get a really solid double team at the point of attack, and not only the double team, there's then a lead coming out. So, and this guy does a good job of walking Woolen back, Ayuk is that, and then blocking Love. So they get way more numbers to the edge. And to me, you can talk about Jamal Adams not getting involved here, but he's never going to make this play. To me, this is a schematic issue where if you're going to leave a big B-gap bubble like this, you're going to just play these 4 guys like this. This is going to happen a lot because they've got 12 personnel out there, and they're running to your weak side with 1 more guy than you have. So, I've looked at this play quite a lot, and I don't really see an answer other than it's a good run play. They did similar stuff in the first game when Seattle played nickel and this overlook. I mean, this shift here, right? I don't really understand why when that happens, I don't understand why we don't get more Wagner here, Brooks here, and then Brooks is thinking here, Wagner's in a better position to be able to play here, and then Adams kind of here. Now, in over defense, and I've spent a lot of time looking at over front alignments, which is what this is, right? Watch back all the Bo Pelini 2013 Nebraska stuff where, that may sound deluded, but he ran a lot of over fronts and he was in the Monte Kiffin tree. And what Seattle's doing with their over fronts now has a lot of similarities and carryover. A lot of the times they'll stack a 3 technique here, and it does look kind of weak in this B bubble, but when a team comes out, you've got a tight end here, right, and a tight end here. There's a balanced look, right? Brooks has shifted to the B. Why is Bobby not more, at least here, so he can access that A gap better if you got run like this? And why is Adams not more here so that he can access C gap here? I mean, this is the weak point. Look how I know that part of the reason they have the safety coming down here, right? And the idea is that Taylor spills the football like this. Brooks shows up here. The safety's unblocked to make the tackle. But that would be nice. But because this tackle doesn't have to worry about anyone in the B, Trent Williams is able to double Taylor. Brooks shoots his gun into the B. And then we get the crack back on the edge, and there's just too much space. But why I mentioned Bobby Wagner is, and it kind of comes up again, if he started where I said, he'd be more like here, then he could maybe get over the top of this block. And David, thank you for the kind donation. If you really want to make sure I see a comment, donation link is fairly simple for Super Chat. David, here is what Wyman's probably talking about. Bobby going underneath that block. He's trying not to get blocked, but going over the top would make a bit more sense. I don't know what the heck Jamal Adams is doing. Like, this is the extra gap. They're bringing an extra gap here, and I just don't think Seattle appropriately reacted to that, even regardless of what front they're playing. I asked Pete Carroll about the challenge of tight end shifts on Monday, and he said, "Oh damn, I've just closed the article. Brilliant." He said, there's a lot of quick motions and shifts nowadays in game, movement shifts, double motions and stuff that are happening, that we're really prepared for all of that. That's not a factor anymore. But while it may not be a factor for player preparation, or it may not be unique to the 49ers, Seattle keeps getting done when they play this front, right? And the smart teams, Baltimore did the exact same thing. They will motion this guy and they gap, and even if you play thick here and run down and take your shot here, you can really get to the edge. So this would be an argument for playing base defense. So against this, rather than have the nickel, it's similar to what I spoke about last time we did this. You'd have a tackle here, a big tackle. So, say Draymond Jones. You'd have Taylor already in here. You could have wait, hang on. Yeah, and then you'd have it would basically look like a 6-2. Where I explained it in the last video, but I think that having two big bubbles like this is too much. Teams just keep beating it, so. And yeah, I don't understand what Jamal Adams is doing here. It's like he thinks he's getting boot or just trying to play boot. I don't understand that at all. But ultimately, it's a good design, but it's a schematic weak point. Even if this is Nwosu, like at least Taylor pierces the double. The problem is, do they just are able to get to the edge? And I almost wonder, should Brooks have seen this and tried to go outside and had Wagner go outside? But if you get day like that, you kind of have to take it at a certain point. But they don't seem to. One, the reaction to this, I know they're playing over to this side, but the reaction to this doesn't seem like it's essentially that's a fullback now. So it's the extra gap. So you'd think everyone would flow a bit more with it. Especially Adams. But then secondly, I don't they're just so weak here. Like this is such a big gap for NFL terms. And it's just the schematic structure versus two tight end looks. And, by the way, Quandary Diggs' criticism does what he's meant to do there. Yeah, Kerry, so you point out they need to play this run like the first play by Christian McCaffrey. I think definitely part of what went on here was they were scared of over pursuing the football. And that's the beauty of Shanahan. He, once he's got you one way, he'll get you in the way that makes you think you're getting got the first way. They almost under pursue here. But like to me, as soon as this starts, Adam should be screaming, motion, shift, or like Y shift or whatever, and then Wagner should tighten, Brooks should widen, Adam should bump in. The way they key this, you'd think would be back, tight end, and then Brooks almost going to get this guy to the outside, Wagner making Brooks right, and then Adams folding in. But they do have this guy coming downhill, and I think they think Love's going to set the edge, but he just gets cracked, and this guy gets all the way to the edge without being met by anyone. And also, it's a good play design, but they've had similar things happen to their structure, so you'd think they'd be a bit more in tune to it. And I know things happen quick in the NFL as well, but as Pete Carroll said, it's not. It happens around the league. It's not new to them. Yeah. You see, Brooks kind of gets outside, and then I think he knows this guy's going for the corner, so he just takes his shot. And then gets caught up by Trent Williams. That's such an impressive play from Williams to stop that run through. Wagner cannot. Wagner can't. I don't know why Wagner backdoors that. That's just trying not to get blocked. But Wagner's in no man's land. Anyway. So let's talk about the Deebo Samuel touchdown. 3rd and 11. I'll play it through with Pete Carroll's comments. It's Deebo coming across on a deep cross right to Jamal. That's something that we've seen and we work on regular concept, and that should never have happened, particularly in 3rd and 11. So the guy's got to do it right in the moment. We got to practice cleaner, better for Jamal. Got to make sure that he's getting his reps in practice, that he can execute and get the timing. So why is this slightly more difficult on Jamal Adams? Well, let's talk about his responsibility first. It's 3 bars again, right? Where he is the weak hook player because there's 2 out here. Shanahan creates 3 out here. So he's the weak hook player. Seattle's playing a creeper. So they show 4 down. They're not showing pressure, really. They then rush 4, but they drop the traditional rushers and rush the non-traditional rushers. So they're rushing only 4, but they're exchanging and replacing and that stuff. So deep third, post third, hook curl, weak hook curl, hook curl, curl flat to the bunch. Look how spread out they get. Again, that type of motion to create empty. Did Jamal Adams see it? Because why it's significant is I'm now confirmed the weak hook player. And with this guy out, I know there's something likely to be coming back, especially. He looks and sees it. He sees this guy is up. He looks back at the quarterback. The quarterback's back foot hits here, and Purdy is looking at this curl. That's significant because the 49ers love peppering here or here or here. Adams is thinking, I can drive into this window. Purdy said post-game how he saw this play late because he felt Adams was flat-footed, and Deebo, who, by the way, isn't rerouted well by Boye Mafe. Deebo has a lot of speed, and he is already basically able, from here, he's able to just find extra gears, which are just unbelievable, and run all the way behind Jamal Adams. Watch Quandre Diggs doing on the play. Well, it looks to me like some type of bunch check from Seattle, which, I mean, that is basically a trips bunch, isn't it? Diggs is just playing the first seam, so he's playing the inner side guy here. You can't ask your post safety to play the post of this guy and the post or the bender of this guy. It's an impossible task. Earl Thomas didn't do it. Ed Reed didn't do it. You don't do it. That's why you ask the weak hook player to take this back. Or what you can do is, if this guy's short, then the corner will then call short. The weak hook could potentially drive all the way across the route, but then the deep third corner looks for work, and so what you get is this route back to the deep third corner, this route driven across by the weak hook, the post safety leaning over to this side of the formation. So John Carey says, can't join tonight, got a 90-minute commute waiting for me, but wanted to pop in and smash a like. Thank you, John. If you haven't already, can you talk about what Pete Carroll meant about the mistakes being easy to fix? Well, this is an easy to fix mistake, right? It's exactly that sort of thing, John. So you can enjoy that on the rewatch. You have to just play the special route, and if they throw the curl in Woolen's thing here, then that's on Tariq Woolen. You can't worry about two things. Even though the 49ers are so good at their constraints, even though they love popping this in here, that's just the coverage weakness. The same coverage weakness we saw where Julian Love, he's looking for 3 up, so they ping it to the backside dig to Ayuk. Now, in terms of where the first down is, would this curl... Oh, crap, I've messed that up. Would this curl have got the first down? Possibly not. So Adams just needed to play 3 up. So he knew his responsibility. Because watching live, I was like, how the hell does that happen to a veteran? I know we've had some comments in the chat saying, how does a veteran not know that? He knew his responsibility. He knew, guys, that, hey, I'm the weak hook. I play 3 up. But Purdy, the 49ers design, it suckered him to thinking, I've got to play at the sticks and try and make a play on this type of route here, or even drive here. And by the time he realized Debo kept going, it was too late. But what was unfortunate is he saw it. He glances over here. He sees that route's going. He just is too slow. And the other thing as well is this is partly an eyes issue, being too greedy to look here. You know, partly a mental issue of being desperate to make the play and make the stop at the sticks. But it's also an athleticism issue. Jamal Adams is faster than this, acceleration-wise. At his prime, he's faster than that. He's obviously never going to be as fast as Debo Samuel, but his recovery, like his movement skills, and then obviously his ability to recover in coverage here is diminished. So, again, Greg Olsen did a great job breaking this down, I think. Jamal Adams has played this kind of play so often for the Seahawks absolutely fine. Or well. He's been very good at it. He wasn't here. And that is all important context to me, okay? Now, why do you play what Seattle did here? Why do you drop Boye Mafe into coverage? And is that Darryl Taylor? Well, the idea... before this guy came out, the idea is that they will probably slide to Boye Mafe, play man over here, and so the theory is, let me do a different color. The theory is we drop out here, you're wasted. You're a mess. You're wasted. We rush here. So that's a mess, isn't it? We rush across here. So this guy is important still. We then could do like I'll just draw it up basic, but we rush here. So this guy is used. We drop here. So this guy looks out here. He's wasted. And then we're blitzing like this, and we're blitzing like this. So the idea is, let me undo that. The idea is that this player becomes free because they don't expect both of these edges to drop. However, the 49ers do a really good job of, and I think they tip it too much, but they do a great job of just packing tight. And the just timing of this with Wagner and Brooks. Remember, Brooks is having that medial ankle sprain, but they just don't get it right. And Purdy has all day. Absolutely all day. Which doesn't help, because what does throwing that route take? It takes time. If there was a normal pass rush here, right? Back foot is here. He's had time to look here, right? See Adams here. And then work with his feet back to throwing that route. That's an eternity in NFL terms. Hitch up, ping. So he has all bloody day. With Seattle trying to overload a pass protection scheme and just getting worked. So that's not great either. And again, right, the best NFL defenses have this reliable pass rush where coverage defenders like Adams are able to play to the sticks, see the threat, feel the pass rush is getting to the quarterback, kill the check down. Adams got the order wrong. The pass rush didn't help him. Again, this is a situation where they tried to cover the check down before it's thrown. And what happens is the ball gets thrown on your over your head. Thank you, What the Smell. Me for head coach. I think Pete Carroll is very much aware of this, which is why his frustration is so palpable, and he's really voicing those concerns. Hold on. So, that's a tough task scheme-wise for a linebacker, but it's a play where you feel better about a safety playing that assignment from depth. It's something Bobby Wagner was great at in his prime. Something Jordan Brooks is really good at. It's something Jamal Adams should be able to do. So you chalk that up to bad player execution, just messing up. Now, what do we have next? We've got so many. This stream's going to go on forever. Okay. Oh, dear. 1st and 10. So, remember, as Pete Carroll said, there's always a first shift and then there's a second shift. So, first shift tells them the coverage, tells them they're getting zone, because starts out here in a stack, comes inside here. I talked about the B-gap bubble. Watch how, again, the 49ers absolutely destroy the B-gap bubble by putting an extra guy there. They crack back on the edge, and they just get the edge. I mean, that's a terrible tackle, disgraceful tackle. And this is 23 yards they get here. So, scheme-wise, what I believe is going on is palms here, or just cover 2. So, deep half, we're reading the 2. Cloud, reading the 2. And they just mirror the release of the number 2 receiver. If 2's out within 5 yards, I jump the 2, I play over the 1. Palms involves a third player, that's Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams' read is 3 to the flat. That allows him to play the B-gap, but it also allows him to, if they run 3 out here, it allows him to take the 3 so that these guys can stay on the number 2. And if 3's not into the flat, Adams can just pack inside of the number 2 and they can play 3 over the 2 receivers. Now, what's good about this play from a 49ers perspective as the second motion comes? This motion happens over here, right? So, again, the 49ers are getting 1, 2, 3 blocks to 2 Seahawks defenders. Because, or 4 blocks for 3 Seahawks defenders. I do not understand why there is no reaction from, or very limited reaction from, I know it's an overfront again, the reaction from Brooks and Wagner to this type of motion is sort of downplayed to me. They don't seem to see this very quickly. Now, Adams gets caught, I think, trying to disguise up a bit in the B. But ultimately, it's a well-blocked play where they double team at the point of attack. They get good displacement. Adams does a good job of recognizing this crackback and fighting through it. But the play is, you can see the crease. McCaffrey's also so good at cutting at speed. Like, he's a very good running back. And Woolen's tackle attempt is what I think, guys, we're going to see him get sprinkled in with Mike Jackson next game. I think they're sick of Woolen. Or at least I think Pete Carroll is. That's not a good enough tackle attempt. Because if you're going to run outside, your corners have to make plays, especially when you're cover 2 corner. This ball is snapped at the 20-yard line, right? Look where Woolen makes a half-hearted attempt at the back. The 24. If he came down and hit the crap out of him, then I'm not talking about how they can bring guys into the stuff. Because ultimately, Adams did a pretty good job of forcing through this. This is better than Julian Love did. He fights through the crackback block. Wagner's fairly slow. Like, I know they're not playing it like this, but what I don't get is surely this going here would be more like C gap, and then we've got a corner out here. But they don't seem to play it like that. Aaron Banks, this number 65, is an absolute menace. He's so good. I mean, the 49ers are something Sean Syed pointed out when we previewed them the second time round. They're so damn good at climbing quickly to the second level, like just immediately going. But this is what will get Reek Woolen benched, along with another play we're going to look at. Because everyone up front does okay. Reed gets... That doesn't help. Reed plays for... Let's go back to pink. Reed plays for a big knockback, but he has this A-gap ultimately. And he gets hooked. He's classic. Getting that from the center, getting that head across. And then that's where you're able to really kind of rip through the block and work the flipper here. So Reed should be here. So imagine if Reed was here. It does make a bit of a difference, doesn't it? Brooks is late getting across, I'd say. But ultimately, there's kind of a Woolen play, but also they're sending 1, 2, 3, and Seattle basic. I mean, really, Wagner's not involved. It's just the numbers advantage. And I don't understand why the backers don't. There's no reaction to that. And I know the 49ers lie with their motion, but surely we could step a bit more. Zachary, just you wait. They do a bit more of that. And in the first game, San Francisco used a very similar motion and beat Seattle's front with it. Ultimately, when you're going to run nickel, right, against, this is 21 personnel, isn't it? So 2 running backs, 1 tight end. When you're going to run this, it's a problem. You're light. Now, how Seattle would have done this, say it was 20... Say it was 2014 or 2018 or 2019. Seattle would have played Stone Reno. So all that is, and I explained this in before. Adams wouldn't be here. Oh, it's going to be complicated, though. Oh, no, it's not. So the corner would play down here, right? So he'd be here. The safety would be here in the middle third. This guy wouldn't be here. Let's scrub him out. They'd have their Sam linebacker right up on the 2, okay? As an edge player who you can't get crackbacked if you're playing like basically down on him. He'd be more close but wide. And then they'd have a 4-eye here playing in this B gap, not giving them a bubble. Brooks would be still here, man on this dude, and we'd have the corner man on this dude. And on this side, they'd still play 2 reading this number 2, but you'd have a big outside linebacker type here. You'd have a big 4-eye who can not give a B gap bubble. And when this guy goes across, this guy's read is 3 to the flat. He's the hook to 3 player, so he'd bump along more. And this guy would be man coverage on him, so he'd bump along more. I don't understand. So one, they're weak in this B gap bubble, which is just how they're choosing to play. Their idea is that this guy can fit the B gap. But ultimately, when this happens, the lack of adjustment from these guys to get along with it is kind of odd to me. Kerry, great point. This is exactly what's happening, Kerry. San Francisco they know Seattle's leaving this B gap bubble. And so they know we're going to just stick someone to flip our strong side post-snap. It's exactly how they did it against Seattle in the first matchup. And, you know, that's Stone Reno thing I spoke about, how Seattle used to do it. I mean, 2019, remember big wheel routes being thrown over the head of Michael Kendricks? When you start doing this and having a guy down here, this guy becomes the conflict player because you can fake run towards him and then you can ping it over his head on a wheel route, run off the corner of a post route. And, you know, there's no perfect play in football. But to me, for Seattle to run this, remember 8 snaps of base this game. But this front, basically for the vast majority of snaps and the majority of the base snaps came right at the end of the game. For Seattle to, when the game was done, for Seattle to run this look every time and not vary up that much. Now, occasionally they might stunt this guy inside. But stunting this guy inside would be a good idea here. They always get caught with their pants down. And they also get caught. They're reactive. They're very rarely proactive with this stuff. They always kind of let it happen to them and then go, oh, that wasn't very fun. Now, I've got a good example of what I'm sort of talking about here. So, like, this guy being off the line of scrimmage and a pair look here, he's likely to come back across. This guy's split is likely to be a crackback. Playing a stunt here and having this linebacker out here, keying this would be a proactive measure rather than letting this happen to you. Now, good example, very next play, 1st and 10. Seattle actually does something about it. So this is kind of an example of what you can do. So they've got the single high look. Adams down to the passing strength again as the nickel. But they blitz to get into bare spacing. And you know it's going to be a long day when you can't tackle. But what that does is a really thick edge set where this guy doesn't expect it. So they take out both the tight ends. They close the B gap bubble with this end. And Wagner's clean to flow into the C gap, which opens up because this guy blocks out. This guy blocks out. This guy steps down. Wagner's free in the C gap. So I'll just let that play out for you. So they close the B gap bubble. They get a much thicker edge set, much more reliable, which outruns the crackback block. They change the structure from being an over front basically into bare with Adams as the outside backer, the force player. And Bobby Wagner misses the tackle, unfortunately. But it's not an explosive play. It's just a good example of why can't you do this before, and why can't you do other variations of this before it happens to you twice? Because we've seen 2 plays with that tight end moving. What took so long for this to happen? You knew they were going to do this. They did it in the first game. So, yeah. Watch the impact of how this player takes these blockers out, spills the football out. Adams takes 2 on the edge, beats the crackback block. Wagner's got a clean run through to the C gap, misses the tackle. And Brooks misses the tackle too. Okay. Let me catch up with the chat. Henry saying, can we salvage Jamal Adams somehow? How would you put him in a position to excel and not be a liability? Well, Henry, the defense this year with Adams playing in this nickel spot, the whole purpose of that is to accent his skills. It's like, you may have heard it called like a stud position or a star, or I know Greg Olsen on the broadcast was calling it a Buffalo nickel position. But like, he's often, not always, but often going to be involved where he's coming down to set the edge. You can blitz him, you can pressure him, you can have him bash up a slot. He can be your kind of blitzing weapon. He's being put in a role which is near the line of scrimmage. He's meant to be like a really important player. The problem, and we don't need to talk. Well, that is part of the problem. The off the field stuff is ridiculous. And you from a human level, you express concern about. Obviously, he had that concussion against the Giants. He's had a brutal recovery from his injury, which is a brutal injury, but such a tough recovery. But his movement skills aren't fully back yet from his injury. And whether they can come fully back, I don't know. But he's not moving the same way he did pre-tearing the quadriceps tendon. That's the right term, isn't it? I'm a doctor. Off his kneecap. That's the real issue. He can't move the same way. Now, the plays in this game that he made mistakes on are more, I think, trying too hard to make a play. Which, if you look at it in a vacuum, it's not a good thing, but it's more positive than other. It's not trying to be he's trying to help the team. But yeah, he described how the knee is. Did he use the word grating? It's clearly impacting him, and he's said how it's hurting him. So that's not great. Anyway, I included that play to show that they do have stuff where they can change their front look more from just stunting the 3-tech and the end in, but they don't do it enough. And they kind of wait to do it after they've been exposed, which isn't great. You would think after the first game, this would be like a big thing that they were like, we need to do this very soon. Because once you do that once, then it kind of dissuades the play. Oh, yikes. This is brutal. This play is absolutely brutal. So this ends up as a 25... no, what am I talking about? A 45-yard catch. And it should be said, like, Brock Purdy's playing out of his damn mind. This is a nuts throw. The type of throw that a very confident quarterback attempts. So here, again, an example of how they're trying to accent Jamal Adams in the current scheme. Thank you for smashing the like. Please do smash the like. Thank you, Raising 5 Kiddos. Good luck with Raising 5 Kiddos. Eli the Economist. Don't gas him, Matty. Who am I gassing? I'll wait. I await your answer, Eli. Because Eli, let it be known, I'm not afraid to use my my powers here. OG3, who I haven't seen tonight, will attest to that. Oh, don't gas Brock Purdy. I'm not gassing him. It's just he's playing really well. It's okay. And Eli, you point out he's good out of structure. Well, that raises an interesting point. So here they blitz Adams off the edge. They slant the outside backer inside. They slant the 3-tech inside to set up the pass rush path. And then I think this guy's running a twist, okay? Now, they're only rushing 4, so I'd call this a creeper pressure again. Why would I call it a creeper pressure? Well, they're rushing it's Jamal Adams, but it's a nickel. Non-traditional rusher, and they're dropping a traditional rusher, Derek Hall, off the edge. On this side of the formation, they're playing cover 2, so cloud, deep half, curl. And then on this side of the formation, they're playing cover 4, so quarter, quarter flat, and then this is the 3. Jordan Brooks is the middle hook, related to the number 3 player. So Shanahan again, evil bastard, shifts out here. Purdy 5-step or 7-step drop, and you see how this is sync. Gun is always a pain because the timing doesn't always sync to the routes. Watch Purdy's back foot hit. Watch where Ayuk is. Bang. If Purdy wasn't a Purdy, he'd throw this ball. Come on, man. Take a shot. Don't be a coward. Because cover 2, Wagner's kind of taking this cheese. Diggs is playing in his deep half, staying top down on stuff. Brooks is relating to the 3rd receiver, which 1, 2. Well, actually, let's do it properly. 1, 2, 3. Brooks is pushed to the middle. He's the 3rd receiver hook. But ultimately, Wagner's not deep. And the whole of the zone is here. And the best quarterbacks will make that throw. But Purdy clutches. Why does he clutch? Well, they do get some pressure. So they're only rushing 4. Adams, I think, he has to maintain this edge relationship on Kittle. At his best, he wins this block. But also, the way he rushes, it keeps Kittle in pass pro. So at least you've kept George Kittle, their best player, in pass protection, and you've only rushed 4. So you've rushed 4, made them keep 5 in. But Shanahan still finds a way to get this stretch out. But it should be doable for Seattle. I mean, there's 2 here, there's 2 here. They have 1, 2, 3 players on this side, and 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side. They have numerical advantage in pass coverage, and they get some interior rush going here, which makes Purdy clutch off that route. But when you drop your edge player on this side of the field, Derek Hall, you have a discussion to be had. You can do something called COP, which is contain on pass. So there's no edge here. I'm this dude. If I get a pass read, I'm going to loop around the edge and contain the quarterback. But you only really do that against Kyler Murray, mobile quarterbacks. Is Purdy mobile? He's sneaky athletic, but is he mobile? Not necessarily. And I don't know what his numbers are like when he rolls to his left, but you would maybe prefer, rather than looping out back to Trent Williams, to get some pass rush to move him off the spot where you still have the numerical advantage down the field. And if you pause it when Purdy breaks the pocket, everyone is covered up. This route's very hard to throw, even though Reek Woolen's late to it. Everyone's covered up. And Bobby Wagner can be the guy to go get Purdy. So in theory, you've killed their play, you've moved him off his spot, you've made him come out the pocket, potentially forced a mistake, or you're going to get a nice hit on him. So the concept at this point has worked. And Diggs is playing deep as the deepest, as the deep half. He knows Jackson's an underneath player. He knows he has to play the post of this player, which forces it out here. I don't know what Woolen's really doing, but anyway, he's kind of playing the quarterback pump. But the problem is Julian Love, he gets a bit too aggressive with how he was playing that route, and then he tries to plaster, and Purdy just throws it to an absolutely brilliant spot, and that's 45 yards. And a nuts throw. Diddy, makes no sense to accent Jamal Adams when injury limitations, coaching problem. Diddy, that makes no sense. Your comment makes no sense. Jamal Adams, they're investing a lot of money on. Okay? Right? He still has a skill set, even though it's lessened by his injury. But also, the same way Jamal Adams is used complements Devin Witherspoon's skill set that has been working in the slot for Seattle. So, I'm sorry, but it makes a ton of sense. Would you do? Just not play Jamal Adams? Well, that's an option. But when he's on the field, you want to try and get the best stuff out of him, and this is the way to do it still. So, yeah, this is an unfortunate play. And I think actually the cop player is Mario Edwards, technically. But I need Purdy's numbers when he's flushed left. I should have looked that up. Oh, I think I might have missed a play here, chat. Where would that have been? Hmm. $3:52 in the second quarter. Oh yeah, I've really missed it. I got caught up. Don't know why. So this is another great play from Shanahan. Hey, familiar stuff for Kerry and stuff here. Watch what happens. B gap bubble. Changing, knowing Seattle set this is their strong side. Changing the picture. I think this is just a good constraint play. So they're running 3 buzz again. So curl to sail, deep third, post third, hook curl, curl to sail. For Maffei, this guy blocks down, so he's influenced. So he tries to nestle, play the quarterback. Adams has to play off the number 2 to his side. He gets over the top of the block well, the crackback, takes out 2 blockers. Wagner's lost inside, but it hits so quickly. Really, on types of plays like this, the guy who can impact the play is the post safety. It's kind of up to the post safety to show up on these. And Diggs is slow. His keys are off here. And they do, I mean, if you pause it right now, the beauty of this mesh point fake is very impressive. Because, I mean, Debo has the ball now. We know that because I've paused it for about 10 seconds. But then fake to McCaffrey, very believable. You have all this stuff here where this, they're downfield, but it looks believable. And then even Purdy taking that step here. If you look in real time, Diggs clears it fairly fast. Like, it's not a bad effort. This is just the type of play you're allowed to hit like once or twice. Again, a good constraint play. So this was 25 yards for Debo. And he's so fast as well. So, like, we're talking about 12 explosive plays here. I mean, 6 of them are, you tip your hat to Shanahan, and there's a few more we'll get to where you're like, fair play. Like, that's very difficult. Right, now let's talk about Bobby Wagner. Yeah, it hits too quick for Maffei. He's like left unblocked by design. But this is why you would This is why people play with hard charging ends up the field. But there's so many other plays you have to defend, which is why it's a constraint. Hold on. Is this the right play? Nope. Hold on. Right. Right. Again, familiar stuff. Trips bunch, 12 personnel. They shift this tight end. I want you to watch how the second level they're playing 3 sky. Curl to sail, hook curl, post third, post third, post third, third, post third. They shift. Brooks adjusts his alignment. Now, typically, you would have C gap, force, C gap, force, or C gap, force, B gap, A gap. Let me rewind that again. Trips, right? So Adams is playing on here, stacking this dude. Wagner's thinking, I need to play in the C. Brooks is thinking, I could do with playing in this A, and the safety's going to come down and play in this B. But when they shift, which is they form an extra gap, right? So the extra gap's gone from here, kind of, to here. Brooks walks along with it, right? So he widens his alignment to the new gap. Even Adams walks along, and we saw how he wasn't doing earlier, right? Bobby Wagner doesn't move. Yet his gap, I would think, and they're playing an over front. They might be doing things a bit weird. I would think his gap would now be here. So surely one step here. Why wouldn't Bobby Wagner move? Well, if they fake, run here, boot out here, or actually let's do what would be difficult? Yeah. If they did something like that, essentially Wagner's responsibility is to stick his foot in the ground and then turn and find the over route. And I think, and this is something he did 2 years ago when he was in Seattle, he is cheating his alignment width-wise to be able to play the race route if they were to fake this way and then roll out to the field where he has to stick his foot in the ground and cover a lot of the space back across the field this way with Seattle can cover 3. That's the only reason I can think that he hasn't lined up a bit more in his gap and stacked his not that guy, stacked his shade here. Now the impact on the play, and again, it's well blocked by the 49ers, but the impact on the play is Wagner is a step behind. And he still ends up overrunning the play because he's trying to make up for it. So again, from this angle, here's the shift. Watch Brooks react. Watch Adams is tighter, but Wagner stays here rather than playing in here. This is his gap, I think. That's, there's one guy in the backfield. You would think it would be bang, 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 bang. We got 8 guys for the 8 gaps. I don't know why he does this, because what happens is there's another thing which happens here. It looks as though Seattle is moving their D-line, and why they would do that is because they're blitzing the weak safety. But if anything, that should mean that Wagner's alignment is more here as well, because he has to be able to get over the top of the movement. Again, he's kind of cheating here because he would be on the play responsible for the third receiver hook, and he'd have one less underneath player helping him. So it's an even tougher assignment if he got play action. So he's kind of cheating his alignment for coverage, which, by the way, on 2nd and 10, I guess it kind of makes sense. But still, it means that he's nowhere near his gap. So that guy just chips on the movement, and Wagner needed to be here. Wagner needs to be here. This guy, you know, he has to beat him to the spot here. So, yeah. He then has to get over the top of it late, which means he can be blocked in the side and he's overrun it. On this side, Derek Hall plays nice and thick into Trent Williams, but Williams is so good at getting leverage on people. And Hall really needed to, even though he was moving, he needed to try get back out here. Easier said than done. Julian Love is being played like he's a safety. He can take on these tight ends, but he's not able to do it so far. I haven't seen much evidence of it. He gets pancaked. And so they get the edge. And they get the crease. And yeah, Lee, Pete Carroll said they don't run much on 2nd and 9. 2nd and 10. I will bring that up in a second for the Reek Woolen play, but that's obviously what Bobby Wagner's thinking as well. But, you know, he didn't put himself in a good spot. He should be here. By alignment, he should be there. And then they have better numbers spacing. Anyway. But the problem here is the edge play of even if Hall is moving here to like a B gap, that it just gets too wide out here. And Kerry, you're saying I don't remember them ever not running to the motion side. Why not crush the line towards the motion when they see it? That would be a good idea. It would at least be a proactive thing. You'd obviously get the counter and the wrinkle off that, but yeah. So, right. All right. So next up, we have a disgraceful play. Really, yeah. There's not much more to say. I mean, let me know what you think of this. Here we go. So, 1st and 10, chat. David, when you say how has no one other than Vic Fangio been able to get that approach to work, what do you mean by that? Because the way that Seattle's running the overfront now isn't how Fangio does it. But what I'd say is, Vic Fangio in Chicago had the two perfect people for the way he ran the overfront, where he had the nose tack on the inside shoulder of the guard. And then the 3-tech playing quite heavy on the guard, where he had Akeem Hicks and Eddie Goldman. And I did a cut up of it, David. Let me just post that in that link in the chat. I don't want you all to go click and watch it, but I did a cut up of it, and the way that they played is just out of this world. That they're just, the talent is off the charts, which any great defense, you need some really good talent. There's the link. So this is cover 3 weak sky. So what that means is rather than the safety playing in the hook, the safety plays in the outside underneath space. Zach, that last play for Derek Hall was a bit of a tough one for him because he was slanting inside. But yeah, his hands could do with work. He's always been the dude who prefers real shoulder contact, and I think playing a bit longer would help him. So, again, evil from Shanahan, where he presents what looks like that same type of run, although now this guy's on and this guy's on. He's not back here, but it looks like that same formation where they did the run play. They've got the slot out here. Although this is the Deebo Samuel, the tailback. But what's evil is from this look here, he gets 5 guys out into the pattern and it basically becomes empty. So all of this eye candy, and then quickly 3 out here, 2 out here. So maximum stress. Seattle only has 4 underneath guys. They've got 3 guys stretching them. 5 guys stretching them. 3 to one side. So what does that mean? Adams has to take the second guy through his zone. This guy's gone through. So this guy is his. So if he ran a wheel, Adams would have to run with that because this corner's occupied. And then this third player here is who Jordan Brooks is looking for the 3 receiver back in the weak hook. And then they could always hit the dig on the backside like they did last time. Now, Brooks does a great job in his drop. A great job in his drop. Look how he relates to the quarterback. Looks back for 3 up. He's looking back. Looks back at the quarterback. But with his body position, crucially, he is still in that dig window. He hasn't done what Love did, where Love ended up here, didn't he? He stayed here and just used his body position to be able to come here. Look, smiley face. Mike Jackson, and he's against the tight end, which makes it easier, but he's a lot tighter to the dig, even though he's played outside leverage. So impressive stuff from him. And he had a solid up and down, but solid game. Like I said, I think we might see him for Woolen on some reps. So that's a really good rep on the backside. And Purdy sees that and is dissuaded from it. So what they do is they force the check down. And Wagner's actually got a bit more depth for the dig. They're forcing the check down. Adams is still deep. This is where it all goes to crap. Purdy comes over here. Wagner's quite tight. I think dropping to the field, he's quite tight and nestled. And he's a tad late to expand, and he doesn't really ever get an idea of where that route is. So his angle's quite rough. Like, he breaks as though he thinks this route's coming here. He should be breaking here. As though he's almost afraid of... It's like he doesn't trust his speed to just play upfield. I don't know where he's going. And then Jamal Adams, he should be, when the quarterback's looking here, he should be working here to get deeper with his butt to the sideline still. He's seen that route's gone flat, and then he should be working back with it if he needs to. So this is not acceptable. And this is an awful, awful angle. At least Wagner, who starts 2 inside and takes a rough angle to start off with, at least he ends up in a sort of over-the-top position. This is awful. So, really bad hook curl expanding with the QB. Like, and guys, this is also why depth is important, because generally, right, the hook to curl landmark, and I don't know if Seattle's really using landmarks so much this year. They seem to on and off, but with how the 49ers use these fast three, like and get 5 guys out, they might not have been doing as much. But Wagner's landmark should be 10 to 12 yards, like 1 yard inside this hash. So like here, he takes about 2 steps back. 1, 2, 3. So if he was here, say, where Brooks is, right, he would be in a much better position to then break back down to this route. But his angle is really flat and shallow compared to that route. Imagine if he was there, he'd be able to, but instead he has to take a rough angle. So this is also the impact of not being able to get quick depth in your pedal, or just not doing it. Being worried about getting depth and then breaking back downhill. And I'm not sure how it's being coached, but if you look at how Brooks plays stuff, he gets depth and comes back downhill. So I think this is a bit of a movement challenge for him. But then also, Jamal Adams here is in a great position. When the quarterback's clearly looking like this, that's when he needs to get more depth to be able to then break on the football. But instead, he ends up way too shallow, still nonchalantly waiting here. The ball has been thrown. You need to stick your foot in the ground and go. Break on the football. Too late. And Wagner misses the tackle because his angle was a tough one, because his coverage drop is a tough one. And this is, again, what Pete Carroll means about being top down. And as I said, the good defenses are here. They force the check down, and then they kill the play. They forced the check down here. This forced the check down. But when they threw the check down, the tackling angles were crap because the hook curl and the curl flat were not in the right positions. They should have been here and they should have been here. And all they had to do was Adams had to keep getting depth. Wagner had to get depth, which would have been more in this window anyway, right? And then they had to break on the football. It's clearly looking there. And especially when an offense is playing, I mean, they're not here actually, but they're such a timing-based offense where not open, come back here, the ball's coming now. They had a good pass rush here. That's when you can really play for it. So it's just bad zone play. And I think, both these players are struggling athletically at times. It's so bad. So bad. So, this is one of those where you can talk all you want about aggressive defense and everything. Ultimately, you need to force, when you're playing zone defense, force them to make the check down, make the play. Here's Mario Edwards taking good advantage. Really nice rush, actually. The center slides to Jaron Reed, so Edwards has the one-on-one. Plays some nice patty cake, wins the kind of two-way go. Moves Purdy off his spot. He senses the time is running out. Checks it down, and it's just awful angles. And part of that is how they dropped their coverage. You've got 2 defenders in, and I don't want to scapegoat or cause a pile on, but you have 2 defenders in the Seahawks defense, in the underneath zones a lot of the time, who aren't getting it done. So that will become an issue. It has become an issue this season. You remember I told you in 2022, the Seahawks defense per Sports Info Solutions was number 1 in EPA per play, defending passes thrown to the 10 to 20 yard area of the field. Right? In the middle areas. So middle, right middle, left middle. Oh, left middle, okay? They were the number 1 defense in EPA per play in the 10 to 20. I can't draw the 20-yard range. This is beneath that, right? But it's a similar issue that they have. But anyway, this season, in that same range, Seattle's fallen to 21st. 21st in the league. Ask yourself what's changed. Now, man, this has been going on forever, hasn't it? Okay. Well, this is quite a simple play, really. This is Reek Woolen just, after he hadn't been biting, he just bites. And he's in the deep third here. It's 3 skies, so he has safety support to his side, Julian Love. So he doesn't need to worry about being the edge setter. He needs to rely on Love. He needs to rely on the backers to see this and fall back with it a bit more. Deep third, post third, deep third, curl sail, hook curl. And Reek Woolen just gets suckered. And, Julian Love bit on the play fake, but at least he had, a primary run responsibility on this play. So, now, Pete Carroll had some interesting comments on this. He said, "We saw that happen last year and we corrected that through all our training and the discipline of our footwork." So when he says discipline of our footwork, I think what he means is when the corner sees this sort of thing happen, he just stays square and waits and shuffles. He might even condense down to stay on the tight end. But how they've been playing their footwork is they drop off slightly and give a bit of ground and tighten up, but stay square. And only when they feel the run block or they see that the ball's been handed off, that's when they then kind of work back outside and show up on the outside as the kind of contained presence. And our deep third play by the corner, and he didn't do it right. He got caught on the play fake. He's not supposed to be part of the play fake. And so we give them a touchdown. They execute it, they throw it and catch it, give them all the credit. But that should never have been a decision to throw. He should never even throw that ball. Reek's got to make his play. That's his one. It's a disciplined play that you do play after play after play, and it's unfortunate, So we have to do a better job of making them aware of how crucial it is to do right. Now, Quandre Diggs misses his tackle here, and he's missing tackles about double the amount that other safeties are in the league, but he's often playing deep, and this is a very difficult open field tackle. He's playing to stop the touchdown this way. He overruns the near hip. It happens very fast. He's also made a lot of big, important tackles for the Seahawks. He also needs Mike Jackson, just noticing here, to actually show up because, buddy, he quits on the play. That's not running to the football. I wonder if that gets marked as a loaf in the Seahawks team meeting. Anyway. So, there you go. Woolen has had some tough moments this year. I don't think you should overreact to it, but he's really hurt by the fact that he missed an offseason with the knee scope because he needed to kind of refine things in his game last year. He needed that offseason to be able to work on it. Yeah. Instead, his movement skills, I don't think are even fully back yet from the knee scope. Now, why it hurts these self-inflicted issues is Kyle Shanahan is a damn good play caller in his own right. So, as we've talked about cover 3, right? This is a cover 3 play. This is our deep third. This is our post third. This is our deep third. This is our curl to sail. This is our curl to sail. This is our hook curl. This is our hook curl, right? So underneath wise, we have four underneath players. We have 3 receivers out here, 1 receiver out here, and a condensed look, which is pretty mean. Jordan Brooks on this play is the weak hook player because he is away from where the most people are flowing, where the flow is. So if we pause it here, 1, 2, 1. Okay. So there's 2 out here, 1 here. Brooks is the weak hook. Wagner's the strong hook. What makes this difficult from Shanahan is the ball's in the middle of the field and he rolls Purdy out as though it's going to be a boot this way. We're going to have a route out here. This guy might run a corner. This guy might run across the field. And so Brooks, after clearing the play fake successfully, seeing this guy's not downfield, he's got a high hat, seeing the back doesn't have the ball, he's thinking, crikey, I've got to stick my foot in the ground and get to the opposite hash and this route here. Instead, Purdy is executing a throwback. So he does this nice pirouette or evil pirouette, and you can see how Brooks is left behind on the play. He's like pointing this way because he's like trap. And then suddenly the play's actually going here. His landmark is like this, and you can see how his path to the race route is not quite correct. Also, he's coming off that ankle injury, which means he's not quite got that agility to flip. You can see it looks a bit wooden from him when usually he's quicker to do this. So an evil play design from Shanahan and a tough assignment for Brooks. Then a really bad missed tackle from Jackson. He has to make that tackle. And then a great play from Julian Love to hustle down the field in the curl to flat, not quit on the play, force the football out. But that's the extra explosive, something that I didn't find to start off with. Thanks, Christopher. Appreciate you. It is quite late. That's how, when the Seahawks defense gives up 12 explosives, this is what happens. Oh, and then finally, they were playing some okay stuff, and then this happens. So another shift, 3rd and 7, 4th quarter. Kobe Bryant comes in the game as the dime player. Shift into trips. Interestingly, he looks over at the sideline. Now, Kyle Scott is usually situated here, the defensive back and the defensive pass game coordinator coach. I don't know why he felt the need to look over after the shift. Surely look at your teammate. This is just 3 bars to the strong side, to the tight end as well, but to the passing strength. Weak hook curl, post third, curl to sail, post deep third. So just cover 3. Remember, it's 3rd and 7. And Kobe Bryant takes the cheese of the whip route. You see how Diggs plays down to Kittle. This is the bait. This is the first down marker. Bryant plays it almost like man-to-man. This route's out here. Diggs relates to it. He expects the help into this zone here. Woolen's run off. And unfortunately, that happens. And you can see Diggs, I think he's saying something to Bryant right at the end. So, last explosive is just a case of a guy who is a bit rusty. And Seattle in previous times has sometimes played, like almost matched this type of route in cover 3. Thinking about last season. But it's just unfortunate. And yeah, Diggs expected him out there. So again, a play. I think I saw someone in the live stream saying, "Oh, Kittle got Diggs." This isn't Diggs. This is Bryant. I wonder if PFF blames that on Diggs. I would hope not. So just too easy for them. You can see right at the end, Pete Carroll puts his hands on his hips and tries to look up at the scoreboard because I think he's like, how on earth did that happen? That should never have been caught there. How did they get Kobe Bryant to bite? So, that has left me feeling exhausted because it's just a combination of things. I think they've run out of schematic wrinkles, or the schematic wrinkles they do have on defense, they take a while to get to. But against the best play callers, who also have a lot of talent, right? Don't get me wrong. I mean, oh my God, Kittle, Samuel, Ayuk, Purdy, McCaffrey, even Juszczyk is vile. It's so difficult to defend because they can run the ball very effectively out of those looks. The formations present the same kind of challenge, run or pass. And then the stuff Shanahan's doing this year with how he spreads teams out, releases 5 in the pattern, stretches guys with McCaffrey. And this game, McCaffrey's kind of that decoy swinging in the flat, but he could run a wheel. But in other games, he's been the kind of running an angle route dude. So they're a really tough opponent. Shanahan's a really good play caller. But I think what also shows up is Witherspoon, when he leaves that game with that hip pointer injury, Seattle really lacks speed at the second level of their defense. And Bobby Wagner and Jamal Adams are having some really tough moments, run and pass. The pre-snap communication is something which we can't necessarily see here, but it's lacking. When a guy off the line of scrimmage, or even on the line of scrimmage, goes across the formation at the snap when he's motioning, and you don't see guys fall back with it, maybe that's a weird scheme design, but I would suggest that it's a lack of communication to the other dudes. Hey, this guy's motioning. We need to all bump along with this. This is all stuff that, regardless of quality of opponent, was happening earlier in the year. So there's a number of things at play. Quandre Diggs isn't the problem. I know that's kind of a weird idea I've seen on Twitter. He's not the problem at all. I understand it's frustrating you're not seeing a massive impact from him. Although in this game, he was hitting dudes over the middle, and it's a shame because the defense has some good plays. They just have this massive, these massive issues that which harm them. But Diggs made some big hits. I mean, I don't know, chat. What else do you want me to talk about when it comes to this defense? Remember, it's the offense tomorrow. Please do like the video, comment down below. There's a Stripe donation feature. There's a super chat feature if you want to contribute. But honestly, you never ever feel obliged to do that. Just like the video and comment, and follow the podcast. That's your Seattle Overload. Follow me at Matty F. Brown on all. Oh, Rod. Bye, Rod. Thank you, Rod. That's a great surname if that is actually your surname. I kind of doubt it, Rod, especially given your first name. But if it is, fair play. You've got an all-time name and you're banned. Owen says KJ Wright mentioned communication pre and post snap is atrocious. Yeah, Owen, and I imagine KJ Wright has a kind of inside scoop on certain details with the Seahawks as well. But Owen, it shows up. I mean, that Bryant play we just saw. Bryant is just come into the game, right? How does he not? Why is he looking to the sideline? Just look to your teammate. But yeah, all that kind of stuff shifting along the line, it doesn't make sense. Like why they're not falling back, why they're not communicating it to each other. Their alignments at the second level are off, at least to my eye. They're cheating things. And I get the sense that certain players are annoyed at each other, body language wise. And I know KJ also spoke about Jamal Adams and not knowing the weak hook and how that's embarrassing. I mean, watching the playback as we just saw, he obviously knows the weak hook. He's just overplaying a different thing with reason because the 49ers do that. But I get the vibe, him and Wagner, there's a chemistry thing there which doesn't seem right to me. I mean, look at that play where they both don't make the tackle on a check down, which ends up going for big yardage. Kerry, what 3rd and long was that? Because with Kerry, we've looked at all the explosives. I mean, because Kerry, if Jordan Brooks was looking to the other side, that would have been his assignment. I know it sounds stupid, but Ayuk ran a seam. Got 11 yards. Might have been 3rd and 7. Let's look it up. This is what I'm talking about. If you have a play that you want to look at, this is your chance to get it up. So let's find that play, Kerry. Bear with me 1 second. Here we go. That's not the right one. Game. Third and 7, you say? An Ayuk 11-yard pass. Okay. Let me just... Maybe 2nd or 3rd quarter. Is the JTR, is the defense too complicated for the players? Does it need to be simplified to fix it? JTR, I'd say the defense is fairly simple, especially with what they're doing up front. But with simplicity comes complexity. Because you are asking them to do up front. You're asking them to play blocks, read a lot of blocks, and play a lot of blocks properly. Was it 2nd and 9, Kerry? That I remember 3rd and 2. Kerry, I tell you what, if you come up, I'll try and look at the play and we'll do it tomorrow. All right. So, guys, schedule tomorrow. Griffin is back. Big news. We're gonna look at the offense. We're gonna look at the offense's issues after their opening script. Something Jackson Bevins has wrote about at Seahawks at Field Goals, the Seahawks SB Nation website. We're going to look at whether the offense is crap after the opening script and why that might be. We also might have some Drew Lock stuff. And Kerry, we're going to try and find that Jordan Brooks play. Please do like the video, comment stuff you'd like to see. Let me know if there's a video breakdown on a player that you want to see. It's 4:38 a.m. So I am going to go to sleep. Hopefully the Seahawks can improve on this stuff. This is all stuff they know, but it keeps happening. And you'll notice there's kind of recurring issues, which some of which is personnel as well. Hard to correct that in season. Until next time, thank you everyone so much for joining. Great participation. Please join again. Good to see all the returning faces and the new faces also. Welcome aboard. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.